Hello everyone, and we are live for round 2 of the Parallel Racing Group Pro Sim Challenge here at Lime Rock Park in the Jettas. You join us here with qualifying with 8 minutes to go, and we are currently looking at Camden Hibbett, the youngster, as he goes for his first flying lap around the iconic Lime Rock Park. Currently is P2, following Jeremy Fairbairn, followed by Colin Weiss, and then Trenton Kramer, Kyle Ridley, and Jonathan Newberg. So Nathan, how are you feeling about this race today?
I'm excited. It's going to be an interesting race. There's very little braking, so not a whole lot of opportunities to make some opportunistic moves. So when moves are made, there's going to be a lot of side-by-side action, which is going to be exciting. We've seen a lot of pace from what our top 3 or 4 are right now. Kyle seemed to not get a lap in on the first go-round. Still got 7 minutes left. Let's see if he can throw another one down.
Yeah, I mean, an absolutely stacked grid here today. Unfortunately, the competitors are a little low due to Christmas coming around, but, still just an absolutely stacked grid. We have Jeremy Fairbairn, GB4 driver, Camden Hibbett, winner of the Spec MX5 shootout, Colin Weiss, who showed tremendous pace in both races in round 1. And there's tons of guys I think, can provide really good racing here today.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of pack separation. There's going to be 2 packs, in my opinion, but that front pack is going to be super stacked.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to strategy, because we'll see here today, especially with this track and how, easy it is to go side by side, but how much time you lose. I think it'll be interesting to see, who sits back and decides to play the long game and go for the lead at the end, or who battles on early and to lose some time or to lose the front pack.
That's going to be a big part of it. If you battle, you lose a lot of time at this track. In these cars especially, it's a lot about the momentum. So seeing who's going to choose to go side by side when and the aggression of all these drivers is going to play out a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we saw in Road Atlanta, we saw the crashes and the strategy plays and the spread out of the group. So I think it'll be interesting to see, what did these drivers learn from round 1? Can they learn from their mistakes in round 1 and take that into round 2 and produce a better result?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a car not everyone has a whole lot of experiences. Jeremy Fairbairn sits a 58.2. It's one of the fastest laps we've seen yet in that Haynes Jetta. Beautiful car. I don't know if we're going to see that getting topped. It's a very good lap. We see Camden Hibbett pulling over, maybe trying to get some tires for the second half of quali. Seems like Jeremy's doing the same thing as we're just about halfway through.
Yeah, 100%. That's an amazing lap from Jeremy Fairbairn. Quite a bit of toe he used to his advantage there. But, his cars are very clunky, as, Morgan Burkhart, he's not joining us here today, but he said in round 1, how clunky these cars are and how it provides for such good draft. So, with that, this is a pretty fast-flowing track. So, draft will be a big part of this race. I think we'll see a lot of our moves down into turn 1 here especially. But, nonetheless, I think it'll be a big pack race. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, turn 1, definitely the biggest draft coming into it, and by far the biggest braking zone on the track. Is going to provide a lot of interesting moves. People trying to hold around the outside, maybe trying to get the inside for turn 3 and 4, entering the S's. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Our points leader currently is not at this race. He is, made other plans for today. So Colin Weiss, our P2 in the point standings, currently P6 in qualifying. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out here today. I mean, will Colin Weiss sit back, take a good points haul, and try to obtain the lead of the series, or will he go for a more aggressive approach and try to get as many points as he can here today?
Yeah, with our point system, it rewards being consistent. So we'll see if he is really going to risk it and try to get those points away from Cam and take the lead, or if he's going to try to just continue putting in those consistent finishes for the long run.
Yeah, I mean, with the 2 drop rounds we have, it does provide a bit of benefit to missing a round. So Cam will be able to still put in a good fight for the championship nonetheless, missing this round. But I think it'll be interesting to see because, from here on out, Cam will have to provide entirely good performances for the rest of the season, not having any more drop rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no room for error for Cam, as we see Jeremy leading around our pack here with Colin and Camden. Camden seemed to fall to the back of the line, maybe trying to set up a little bit of a draft lap here. If Jeremy stays in the lead, it looks like Camden ruins his lap before he even gets a chance to start it. He was setting up something good there, but not to be on this time around.
Yeah, I mean that's a great lap by Jeremy Fairbairn, almost 2 tenths clear of the entire field. And if you look at how close the field is, I mean we have a good Alessi, Hibbett, Haran, Weiss, Kramer, all within about 2 tenths, and even Newberg's in there. So as tight as these guys are, to be 2 tenths of the clear, 2 tenths clear of the field really says something.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the entire field is within about 2.5 tenths, and then you have Kyle a little above that, and Jeremy by far in the lead with that mega lap as we saw. So we see Jeremy kind of pulled out of the way, not wanting to give anyone else draft, as he's pulling around Brendan Horan right now, seeing what lap he can get. Pulls to the side, like we said, not trying to give anyone draft. See what his strategy is for the rest of the time. Maybe he just pulls in and parks it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look at Jeremy's laps here, he's put down a 58.5 on his first flyer and a 58.8 most recently, but 58.2 is just so much clear of anything else that's been put down so far. I think it's really going to be hard to beat.
I agree 100% as we're on board with Kyle now, setting up another lap. He's got a little bit of a draft on board into turn one. Good entry. There's some talks between the drivers about how this car likes to be driven with the front wheel drive and it being one of the older cars on the simulator. So it looks like he's going to a more standard approach, going through the S's. Has a good draft on this lap. If he can put the lap together, he may be able to challenge. That 58.39 is still a very good lap, and he is not under threat from behind. So he's kind of throwing it all at the wall here, seeing if he can get those points for pole position.
Yeah, and he actually goes purple through sector 2, so we'll see if he can put something together here. This is shaping up to be a really, really good lap. We'll see how he shapes up the last corner. This could be pole, and those 5 points, like you mentioned, can go a long way in this series as we have multiple drivers within 5 points from even the first round. So every point counts in this series 100%.
Oh, and he grabs pole position by 0.003 of a second. Looks like we found about the limit of what these cars can do around here. 58.200. Like I said, 0.003 clear of Jeremy Fairbairn. We didn't think that time would be beat, but just right there with less than a minute left in this session, looks like he's going to be one of the top of the charts.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I mean, as you see here on board with Jeremy Fairbairn, he has no draft in front of him, so I think it's going to be really, really hard for him to beat that lap. But he does go purple in Sector 1, so we'll see if he can do it, but I doubt it. I mean, with no draft, it's going to be hard to beat that lap that was set by Kyle Ridley.
Yeah, it's impressive he got that purple Sector 1 considering the front straightaway draft. We'll see what he can put together the rest of the lap. He doesn't need much if he can just beat himself out. He'd be clear, but those two right there, 0.3 clear the rest of the field and the rest of that pack. Oh, and he decides to pull over, get rid of that lap, move on to the race. Let's see, anyone else is not going to be able to take Kyle Ridley, so he'll take those points for pole position as we get started here.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how close this qualifying is and how competitive these drivers are. I mean, just amazing laps all around with the entire field covered by a second here today, and you really love to see it, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just amazing to see that many drivers covered by such a close margin.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if these two can work together, they might be able to break away, even in these cars with the draft, the lower horsepower. But right now, they're pretty clear of the field, so if the mid-pack there with all those guys that are really tight continue to fight, maybe they'll be able to break away.
Yeah, and I mean, Jeremy is hungry for points. He did not have a great round one, either race one or race two. So he's going to be hungry for some points today, and I'm excited to see what he can do with it.
Yeah, he's very fast. He has to move on from race one very quickly and just focus on picking up those points. Like we said, not a very good showing in round one, but that is why we have our drop rounds. So from here on out, maybe he's picked up some things about this car, kind of how to run with these drivers, and see what he can run here in round two.
Yeah, I mean, just probably on the field, we have Alessi, Hibbett, Haran, Weiss, Kramer, Newberg, all within, 2.5 tenths there. So we love to see that. I really think Niall Bullion and Greg Ginsburg will stay with that pack, to be honest, just with how this car drafts and, and all that stuff. I think they can stay with this pack most certainly.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they can keep there, maybe cause a little bit of chaos, like we talked about the field separation, we'll see how that works. You lose a lot of time battling around here as the pace car shows up and everyone goes to grid.
Yeah, and as we go to grid here, starting from front to back, we have Kyle Ridley taking pole with his Jetta Vermilion Motorsports team, 27 there. Then we have Jeremy Fairbairn, the number 4 car in P2 by just 3 thousandths or 2 thousandths, as Nathan pointed before. We have Louis Alessi in P3, the 43 car, Camden Hibbett in P4 of a 32 car, Brendan Haran with D2DE Racing in the 45 car in P5, P6 Colin Weiss from Wisconsin, the 69 car, Trenton Kramer, the 20 car from Ohio, Jonathan Newberg, the 8 car from Florida, Niall Bullion, our only UK driver here today, the 10 car, P9, and rolling off in last, Greg Ginsburg.
Yeah, Greg Ginsburg may be starting last, but I know he is not going to want to settle for that. Greg's a racer at heart, so we'll see what type of chaos he can cause going into this first lap.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Greg does here today. I think he's a smart and sensible driver. He's been racing for so many years, more than I've been alive probably. So I think he'll make his moves, but he'll make sure they're smart, and he'll make calculated, planned moves that will help him going forward.
Yeah, exactly. As we see his beautiful Oreos covered Jetta rolling off the grid for round 2 as we get started. As we look down the field, we have a ton of beautiful liveries. That Taco Bell car, that looks very good. A couple plain cars, Camden Hibbett with his brand new livery. These Jettas are quite the machines.
Let's take a look at the Camden Hibbett machine. I believe he built that all by himself, which very impressive at such a young age. And that car
Man
is
of many talents.
absolutely stunning. Like you said it, man of many talents. I mean, you can't deny the Haynes car. We all love it. Jeremy Fairbairn.
Oh, the Haynes car. It's
the pink Haynes
a series classic.
It really is. You really can't miss it. The Haynes Big Lot collaboration. I'm not sure we'll ever see anything like that in real life, but it's good to see it on the car and send them nonetheless. But great paints all around as the drivers are approaching the last corner, second to last corner before we start. And I think the inside line is going to be the place you want to be here.
Yeah, this car, I don't know how it reacts around the outside here. If you can hold it around the outside, maybe you can muscle your way up into the inside of what is turn 3. If you can do that, you might be able to get clear, but again, it switches back around, and then the outside turns into the inside for turn 4. So we'll see what the drivers go with as the pace car pulls off onto the Sam Posey straight. Go to our flagger here.
Looks like they are green. Kyle Ridley takes the lead. Green flag. Clears Jeremy Fairbairn way before T1. Swerves back to the left. Jeremy Fairbairn will slot in P2. Camden Hibbett P3 currently. Louis Alessi down this inside. Look further in the back there. Louis Alessi slots in P4 right in front of Colin Weiss as he gets shuffled to the outside next to Brendan Haran. We'll see how this works.
A little contact between Weiss and Haran. As we talked about, looks like Colin's trying to hold the inside, muscle out. Haran sticks to the outside. Let's see if we can get him clear here in turn 4. Slight contact. They're still side by side as we go into the uphill bend. Let's see if the draft has anything to plan here. Wheel to wheel into uphill bend. Colin seems to give away the position. A little contact behind. Colin slots back in. They don't want the pack to get away. There's a little bit of separation between Haran and the car ahead as we round the last turn to complete our first lap. As it is still Kyle Ridley P1.
Yeah, like you said, a little bit of a gap between Brendan Haran and Louis Alessi up the field. So you see a move here by Jeremy Fairbairn, but he decides better of it. We'll slot back into P2. So we see Camden Hibbett up 1 spot from where he started in P4, along with Jonathan Newberg also up a spot into P7.
Greg still there in the back, trying to hold on to the pack, as now we see Kyle Ridley with that Haynes car behind him, Jeremy Fairbairn going into the uphill. Man, they are close, as we see, like we were talked about, a little bit of pack separation between those first 2 guys who seem to find a little more pace than anyone else. They are bumper to bumper. Jeremy still wanting to see if they can break away, not making the move yet. See if he changes his mind, maybe commits to that move that he was looking at in turn 1.
Yeah, and although, Jeremy and Camden aren't exactly teammates per se, I mean, I will say they definitely work together as both PRG boys. I think, he'll have that on his side. So I think if Jeremy gets through, I think Camden Hibbett will try to follow and leave Kyle Ridley to P3.
Yeah, slightly defensive by Kyle. Looks like he's worried from the pressure behind, as he should be. Jeremy is right on the bumper of him as we go through what is turn 3. Camden still trying to stick in there. Looks like that defensive move brought the pack together a little bit more. No one going for anything yet. We still have 15 minutes left in this race.
Yeah, plenty of time for the drivers to, make up some spots. And at the end of the day, for race 2, we still have our reverse grid. So who knows how that'll change things up. I mean, we could see Greg Ginsburg on pole potentially if we have a 10-car or more reverse grid. So this could play out very interestingly.
Yeah, the reverse grid's definitely going to take a part into it, make some chaos in race 2, see who can really get through that field depending on how big the flip is. As Ridley's super defensive on the Sam Posey straight into turn 1. See if Jeremy tries to go for the crossover. Camden peeks to the inside. Everyone stays in line, shuffles back in, on board with Kyle. Now Jeremy. As we can see, this is how close he's been following around this entire time, waiting patiently to pounce. Seems like he's had a little bit more pace than Kyle, really putting the pressure on him. Jonathan Newberg. Oh, looks like a multi-car incident down at the exit of the S's, and the number 20 car just tags the Taco Bell car, and he can't recover before rejoining into the racing line. Unfortunate. Looks like that wasn't too much a fault to anyone, but we'll have the stewards go back and look at that one. As we're back live, Jeremy Fairbairn, let's see if he does anything to turn 1 this time. He's a little further away than he has been. Camden now really right on the bumper of Jeremy. Oh, and he looks like he's peeking to the inside of turn 1. He clobbers the curb. Kyle Ridley gets pushed wide off track. Camden Hibbett into P1. Jeremy Fairbairn with a very aggressive move onto Kyle Ridley. He was sick of waiting around.
Let's go back and take a look at that. What a dive there by Jeremy Fairbairn. Not too sure Kyle Ridley will like that. We'll go on board with him here with Jeremy Fairbairn. See how this move looks from on board this machine here. Late move for sure, but he gets to the apex with a little bit of contact. I think missed contact right there is what Kyle Ridley's going to be most upset about. But Camden Hibbett through to P1. Jeremy Fairbairn back to P2, and Kyle Ridley gets shuffled down to P4.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate contact that happened there. See if there's any post-race penalties to be applied. Again, these guys do have a second race, so you don't want to create too many enemies in the first one. It can come back and bite you. But as we said, Camden Hibbett from 3rd to 1st now, leading this pack. Jeremy back into 2nd. And then we have Kyle Ridley all the way back to 4th. Still in the front pack. Doesn't look like he picked up too much damage, so there's still a chance for him.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this incident has caused is that Brendan Aron and Colin Rice are back in this mix, and they have joined the pack once again in P5 and P6 respectively.
Yeah, they're very close. Let's see. This 4-car race looks like it's very close to turning to 6 cars. They're basically with the pack now. That beautiful Haynes number 4 car. Very close up on the bumper. Jeremy looked like he really wanted to lead early on in this race, and he looks like he has a little bit of a run as that Momo car goes off. As he goes down to the inside of Camden before we're even to the start-finish line. Maybe learned his lesson of appearing. Oh, and it looks like Kyle Ridley tries to take advantage of that going down the inside, but Camden shuts him off. Good defensive driving from Camden Hibbett, but Jeremy seems like he's where he wanted to be in the lead, controlling this race.
Yeah, 100%. And that could potentially mean though he starts in the very, very back for race 2. So we'll see how that all works out for him. Is leading really where you want to be for race 1? Most likely you get the most points out of it, but how will it affect your race 2 is really what matters here.
Yeah, 2 races, both equal point opportunities for all of these drivers. Really looks like Jeremy wanted to lead here, but as we keep looking at those times, Colin and Brendan are even closer to this pack now. A little bit more chaos, and they'll start shuffling things up in the back of this 6-car pack.
Yeah, and one thing to note, Lewis Alessi, although he is P4, he has the fastest lap right now, so he will get the points for having the fastest lap, but I think Jeremy Fairbairn, one thing he's going for here is to lead the most laps. So I think that's why he was so eager to get to the front, to get those extra bonus points and bounce back from round one.
Yeah, exactly. As we're just about halfway here in this race, looks like we'll be getting the more laps in than timing out the race. 20 minutes or 15 laps these races are. Lap 8 currently. So Jeremy Fairbairn, I think this is his second lap he's going to lead compared to Kyle, who had a lot of laps led. So he's going to have to lead most of this race to get those points for most laps led. We'll see what Camden has to say about that, as the field coming around the last turn this time is very, very tight. Colin, Wes, and Brennan not too far behind as we see the top 3 cars go defensive. Camden really defensive, but Kyle Ridley tries to go down the inside. He hits the curb. Luckily, no contact like earlier in the race. Camden slots back into P2. Kyle P3. Very interesting to see. It looks like the driver's getting impatient. That's Colin Weiss going up the inside. This is something he's done before in this race, but he can't hold it around the outside there, as the number 45 car of Brennan Horn is still on the inside, drafting up into the uphill bend. Oh, a little contact right before turn in there. Brennan really sends it in. Oh, there's contact on exit as they crest the hill.
They're still banging doors back there. What an amazing battle these two are having, but they have lost the pack slightly as Colin Weiss is using all of the road out here.
Colin Weiss mowing the grass here at Lime Rock. It looks pretty short, but apparently thought it could be shorter. Jeremy Fairbairn still leads as we cross to finish the 9th lap of this race. Only 6 more to go. Let's see as that pack separation happen right behind there. Looks like Colin in P5, but he's out of the pack now. If there's enough racing, he might be able to better his position, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, I really don't think so, but I think Kyle Ridley is going to be looking for opportunities. I think he wants to finish P2 at least. He doesn't want to finish P3. He probably feels a little bit upset at Jeremy Fairbairn for that move he made on him, so he's definitely going to be driving maybe some red mist right now potentially, and he's going to want to get back to him for sure.
Yeah, Kyle Ridley. The thing these guys also got to think about is the next race, as we have an inverse grid. Still don't know what it's going to be yet, but it looks like Kyle and Jeremy will be around each other for race 2. So hopefully there's no red mist or heat going on there, but it looks like Jeremy's able to pull a little bit away from Camden. Camden was just a little bit off pace in qualifying, as we see Kyle trying that inside move. They make contact on the entry. Both of them are wide. Wow, that was quite an aggressive move. Lewis looks like he's going to try to take advantage of that. Camden still on the inside. Everyone shuffles back into place. Kyle is, like we were talking about, very eager. We'll go back on board with Kyle down into turn 1, right on the bumper of Camden. He pulls out to make this move, and Camden seems to start turning in a little bit, but Kyle really blew the apex, was not close to hitting that corner at all. So we'll see what the stewards have to say about that.
Yeah, 100%. I think Lime Rock is one of those tracks where it's difficult to make a really clean move that no one will be upset about. So I think that might be as clean as it gets in these cars and this track. But I think nonetheless, a good move for the most part. But we'll see how the stewards look at it, and they may look at it differently. But with less than 5 laps to go, he has to go for that move, and I'm sure he didn't think about it twice.
Yeah, he's really looking at those laps tick down. He really wanted to take that second place position. Looks like we were talking about maybe driving with a little red mist. Really wants to get back up to Jeremy, but Jeremy almost a second clear of the whole field right now. Let's see if Camden can get back up to Kyle. Looks like Colin and Brennan are still a little bit behind this pack. Behind that, then we have Trenton Kramer in P7, Greg Ginsberg in P8, up 2 positions from his starting position. Very good race for him so far.
Yeah, we mentioned Greg. He's one of those drivers who will just play it smart and do whatever it takes to just bring his car home clean. He's one who has been on his roof before, and I'm sure he'll tell you about it if you ask him. But he's really, when it comes to the sim world, he likes driving clean. He likes driving professionally, and really makes smart, calculated moves.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he may not be the guy sending it down the inside, making the most aggressive move, but if you make a mistake, he's going to be there to capitalize on it. It looks like he's done that in this race.
Yeah, 100%. But if we look at Kyle Ridley's got the Jeremy Fairbairn, it is most certainly coming down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3/10 faster that last lap as Kyle is using the draft to suck up to Jeremy Fairbairn. Camden getting pulled by Kyle a little bit. So we'll see how maybe in these last 2 or 3 laps, Kyle can chase down Jeremy and get his revenge on that turn one move.
yeah, and I'm sure if he gets to him, he will make it known that he didn't like that first move. So it'll be interesting to see. Will he make a move or will he keep it clean and just stay behind him for a P2 finish?
Yeah, these guys, oh, as they're swerving on the front straight, looks like Jeremy is already feeling that pressure as Kyle was again 2 tenths quicker that last lap with 2 to go. If he holds this pace, it looks like he's already almost on the bumper of Jeremy Fairbairn. He's found a whole lot of pace in this last little bit. As Camden seems like he's coming with him. The two behind Jeremy Fairbairn have sucked up to him in this last lap. We'll see what can happen in these last lap and a half, see if there's any excitement.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Camden Hibbett loves the position he's in. He knows Kyle Ridley is driving with the red mist. He sees Jeremy Fairbairn leading this race, and I think Camden's in the perfect position to pick up maybe 2 spots potentially and even win this race, depending on how Kyle Ridley plays this move.
Yeah, Camden kind of sitting back, maybe looking at what's going to happen here, as Kyle seems to be just about a car length and a half back from Jeremy as they go onto the front straightaway. We'll see if the draft is strong enough. Obviously, Jeremy thinks it's strong enough as he's swerving on the front straightaway. Looks like there's no space to make a move going into turn one. Camden right on the bumper of Kyle. Maybe Camden's thinking, hey, they're not going to do any racing, so I need to make this position for myself.
Yeah, 100%. Camden's young, but he has a mature brain, and he makes smart, calculated moves, so I'm not sure I'll look for a pass for the rest of this lap. I think he'll just, settle with his P3 finish, but we'll see. Maybe, into the last corner or even down the front straight before the finish line, he might pick off a spot.
Yeah, if that draft's strong enough, you can get a good enough exit. But man, he is right on the bumper of Kyle. So we go to the last 2 turns. Looks like everyone else is a little spread out. This is the main pack that we have. They are right on the bumper of each other. Let's see, Camden Hibbett going around the last turn, right under the bumper of Kyle Ridley. Let's see, Jeremy pulls to the inside. So does Kyle, and it looks like those will be the finishing positions. Jeremy Fairbairn wins race 1 of the PRG PSC. Kyle Ridley P2 as they go into the runoff to reset and get ready for race 2. A little bit of contact between Camden. We got Camden P3, Lewis P4, Colin Weiss P5, Brennan Horn P6, Trenton Kramer P7, Greg Ginsberg P8, Nail Bouillon P9, and Jonathan Newberg P10 as we go into race 2.
Yeah, just an amazing race by all those guys here today, and I mean, it was honestly a pleasure commentating them. They did an amazing job all around. We see Jeremy Fairbairn wins the race. Kyle Ridley P2 with Vermilion Motorsports by just about a little under 2 tenths. Camden Hibbett P3 with Parallel Racing Group. Then Lewis Alessi, like you said. Colin Weiss, Brennan Haran. But I think Colin will be happy with that points performance. He'll grab a good amount of points there. I think Kyle Ridley will also be happy. Gets a P2. He'll bag a lot of points there. And Jeremy Fairbairn finally gets his breakthrough after a terrible round 1. And as we are live again for race 2 of round 2 of the PRG Pro Sim Challenge, we have a full grid reverse or inverse, however you want to call it. Either way, our entire grid will be flipped upside down, and we'll be having the last place finisher start P1, and our winner, Jeremy Fairbairn, from race 1, start all the way at the back. Nathan, tell me how you feel about this one.
It's going to be exciting. We have one of our drivers that had a DNF in the last race, Jonathan Newberg, who showed a little bit of pace in practice. He's going to be starting on pole, so he's going to be trying to capitalize on everyone else wanting to move through the field. Colin Weiss, who showed some good pace as well, finished P5, I believe, so he'll be starting up there as well ahead of the other fast guys. So the guys that showed pace but didn't have a great finishing position are going to want to capitalize on that and keep position. And of course, those guys that won the race and were up top, starting in the back, are going to try to get through as quick as they can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we had some guys such as Niall and Tristan Kramer who got involved in that early incident with Jonathan Newberg, who looking for some redemption in race 2. You know what I'm saying? They had some pace. They just weren't able to show it in race 1, and I think this is their perfect opportunity. They'll be starting from the front of the grid, so I think this will be a great race for them to show what they are capable of, and we'll see if they crack under pressure.
Exactly. I'm excited to see how this one goes as we are watching some of the drivers go out and just get warmed back up again after our little intermission. Brennan Horan taking an interesting line into turn 1. I haven't seen that one before, but see how that goes for him. Camden Hibbett rounding the last turn, coming into the pits as well. Just about 3 minutes before we get started for race 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's going to take a lot of patience is a big key word here for the guys in the back from this race. They have pace. Jeremy Fairbairn has pace. We all know this. Kyle Ridley has pace. We all know this. But they're going to have to be patient. They can't, just drive through everybody else. They will get penalties post-race. And it's going to be hard to make some moves here, but I think patience is going to be the key, not getting penalties, and I think with that will come an amazing race. I'm excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, our race is twice as long here, 30 laps or 50 minutes. As we saw in the last race, we will probably run through all the laps before the time runs out. So twice the time, more time for the guys in the back to hopefully move through the guys that they know they're faster than. So as we talked about, those people that have good starting positions with the reverse are going to want to continue to hold that throughout the race and make most of the time in the beginning when the fast guys are going to be moving through the slower drivers.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to race 1, I mean, Jeremy Fairbairn with a full 45 points, which I think is the most you can get from one race in this series, so I'm sure he'll love to see that. Kyle Ridley got 40 points last race with his 35 from the race and 5 points from qualifying on pole position. And Camden Hibbett, 31 points. Frank Alessi, 29 points. And Colin Weiss, 22 points to round out your top 5.
Yeah, we were talking about Colin and his point situation, wanting to make some up on Cam as he was sitting P2 before the first race today. Now that's changed up a little bit, I believe, but we'll see how he goes into race 2 as he's starting ahead of a lot of people that had a little more pace than him in race 1.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if that, maybe the Jeremy Fairbairn and Kyle Ridley, not beef, but maybe the bad blood there boils over into this race. It's going to take a lot of patience between both of them to make their way through the field, as I do believe they both have the pace to finish 1 and 2 here after 30 laps. But it's going to take patience. Jeremy, for one, has to understand that Kyle can only go as fast as the car in front of him. And Kyle as well has to understand that they have to work together, and they can't fight the entire race, so they will lose the pack. And P1 and P2 their dreams will be crushed at that point. So it takes patience on both ends, and a little bit of teamwork, even though they aren't teams. A little bit of understanding to make it to the front here today.
Yeah, exactly. The bad blood that may have been caused in race 1, created in race 1, they don't want that to translate over. They got to work together a little bit, as we talked about, get through the pack and then sort out what they have at the end of the race. Of course, that's the only part that matters in the end, but we'll see if they can, get along in harmony for these first couple laps.
Yeah, I mean, with Jeremy Fairbairn, I think all the drivers know on this grid that he's an aggressive driver, so maybe if you're Kyle Ridley, you even let Jeremy by early on in the race, and you let him pave the way for you, and make him make the mistakes. But no matter what happens here, I'm sure it'll be a great race, and I'm excited to see what happens.
We shall see as we're going to get ready to grid up here with our drivers for the second race of round 2 of the Parallel Racing Group PSC.
100% as practice wraps up with Jonathan Newberg setting a 58.7, Lewis Leslie just behind him, and now bullying in P3, getting those extra laps in. Love to see it, as most of our drivers decided not to, but some of our drivers said, you know what, let me take this time, get a few more laps in, and see what I can do with it.
Maybe trying some new lines and stuff like that in this practice, seeing who we got. Our pole sitter for this race. Do we want to read off the starting grid there?
Yeah, 100%. We have Jonathan Newberg, the 6 car from Florida, starting on pole. Next to him, we have Niall Bullion on the outside, the 9 car from UKNI. In P3, the Casa de Amigos Racing Machine, the 72 of Greg Ginsburg. P4, Trenton Kramer from Ohio, and P20, the 20 car. P5, D2DE Racing, Brendan Haran, number 45. Colin Weiss in P6, the 69 car from Wisconsin. Louis Alessi, the 43 car from Virginia, is in P7. Camden Hibbett in his Parallel Racing Group Machine, number 32 car, starting off in P8. Starting in P9, Kyle Ridley in his Vermilion Motorsports Machine from Australia, car number 27. And starting last, P10, Jeremy Fairbairn from Florida, number 5.
As we roll off the grid here, it's going to be an interesting race. Greg Ginsburg up there, see how he, I think for the guys up front, a lot of their finish position is going to be based off of how they work with the faster guys. Some of those guys know that they're not going to be challenging for the wins, and with people like Jeremy, who's definitely going to be wanting to come through the field, as we talked about, Jeremy being a very aggressive driver. So maybe there's a little bit of time being gained from working with them and letting them come through the field. And maybe if Greg can, let someone by, and then the next corner, Jeremy goes for a dive bomb on someone, maybe he can capitalize on that position. So there's going to be a lot of side-by-side action on a track that doesn't have a whole lot of braking zones and opportunities to pass.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Jonathan Newberg, I think he has a little more pace in his arsenal than we were shown in practice and qualifying. I think as he starts to figure his car out, so I wouldn't put it past him for a good finish today. But also Niall Bullion, he didn't put very many laps in before practice, but he's shown increasing better and better pace as the event has gone on. So I think both those guys in the first row will provide some amazing racing today.
100% as we round the last turn with our field here, getting ready for race 2 of round 2, the Parallel Racing Group Pro Sim Challenge onto the Sam Posey Straight. The pace car pulls off, and it looks like the field's already accelerating. There's our green flag. Looks like we already have some drivers 3 wide in the middle of the field. Jonathan Newberg will lead the field into turn 1, as we saw Colin Weiss moving up into P2 on the exit of turn 2. Camden Hibbett already up into P3. Very good start from them. As we look back in the pack, we also see that beautiful Haynes car slicing up some of the traffic. As we saw, it looks like the cars are moving through very quickly, as at a track that doesn't have a whole lot of passing. We already have some of our fast guys up into the front positions. That's Camden Hibbett there. Looks like he's in P3, Colin Weiss P2. Jonathan Newberg still able to hold the lead. Is that Jeremy Fairbairn going down the inside of West Bend on someone. Don't know exactly who that is, as he's still side by side. Looks like he's got him clear going into the last turn. Jeremy with the most work to do, and a lot of drivers taking the extra road out there in the last turn. No incident limits in this series, so it's just what can make you the fastest. 2 cars, number 20 down the inside into turn 1. Trenton Kramer trying to hold the outside there. No, he's on the inside. Oh, and we have contact with Greg Ginsburg in the back. Let's see who else that is. That's Brennan Horan. Brennan Horan, who is running up front. Let's see if we can get a replay on this. One of our contenders for the top 5 in that last race. Let's see exactly what he's... Oh, he just kind of tracks out and gets grabbed with the old damage model there on the rear corner by Greg Ginsburg.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at that start from Camden Hibbett if we can go on board with him. I mean, what a start he had. Just, I mean,
Yeah,
3 wide down the middle. He's already made up 5 spots up to P3 this race, so amazing start from him as we go back live and on board with him. He's starting, he's currently P3, only a 10th back from Colin Weiss in P2 and Jonathan Newberg in P1. As Colin Weiss makes a lunge on Jonathan Newberg, he'll go to the lead of this race. Kevin Hibbett will follow him through, and can he take the lead? He'll hold on the inside, and he'll go to the lead as Colin Weiss slides back into P2.
Yeah, as we see, maybe Camden trying to take advantage of them running a little wide there. He's still on the outside trying to get that overlap. Looks like he cannot beat him to the apex. So that is Colin Weiss up into lead, Camden Hibbett in P2, Jonathan Newdor, or John, as we have Jonathan Newberg, who falls back into P3 there after that move by Colin Weiss into turn 1. It looks like Jeremy Fairbairn trying to go for a move into West Bend as he makes it back up into the 4th position, but a little contact on exit between him and Trenton Kramer as he blocks. Oh, and this is the 2 people we were talking about as they make contact. They make contact off. Jeremy Fairbairn in the wall. Oh, and he's upside down. He's rolling across the track. This is not what we wanted. This is what we were talking about before the race with Jeremy Fairbairn and, the aggression between the 2 in the first race. Neither of them wanting to give up anything, and contact. Jeremy Fairbairn goes rolling across the track. Wow.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate. We mentioned before the race, would the bad blood spill over into this one? And I think that right there answers it for you.
Yeah, that created a little bit of field separation. Trenton Kramer back up into P4 with that. Jeremy Fairbairn all the way back down to last. Not going to be able to finish. Looks like Camden and Colin are able to pull away a little bit here. Jonathan Newberg at the moment 8/10 back. Behind him, Trenton Kramer. Kyle Ridley still in this race. As we'll see, Greg Ginsberg in 8th, Brennan Horn in 9th. They're bump drafting, so it looks like these 2 are definitely wanting to get away from the rest of the pack. They're just a little bit less than a 10th slower than the car behind this lap. Let's see if they can work together and get through here. See, these 2 cars going side by side through 1, but it looks like the number 43 is going to be able to pull through on the inside.
Let's go back and take a look at this move. I think, Lewis lets gets a run on Niall Bullion here, goes down the inside, maybe has some overlap before T1, and great job giving space by Niall Bullion, maybe even a little too much as he wraps the entire top of the corner like the rain line almost before giving the spot up. But good pass by Lewis Alessi there, clean as can be, and just good racecraft by both of them there.
Yeah, looks like he was trying to run the top, get the cushion as if it was a dirt race, but did not work, sadly, as the number 20, Trenton Kramer, is off on the last turn. As we said, no incident limit, just trying to make it as fast as you can. If you can hold it out there, maybe dropping a couple tires quicker, but, being on track is usually quicker than being off.
Yeah, 100%. As Kyle Ridley makes a maneuver, I'm not sure what happened there. I think there might have been some contact there. We'll go back and look at it. See if there's anything that might be contestable.
Kyle's really trying to get through the field here. He knows that, the big points gained by Jeremy in the first race is no longer going to be available, so he's trying to get through as much as he can. Looks like he's super deep on the binders into turn 1, and Kyle, both of them, as we talked about, being on the racetrack faster than being off. That was Kyle and Jonathan Newberg both going off into turn 1. And
crash here. I think Jonathan Newberg has retired out of this race. We'll see what happens. Oh!
Huge crash. 3 cars as they go up into the uphill bend. Jonathan Newberg, our pole sitter for this race, as we hear more chaos happening. Kyle Ridley, as we talked about, maybe being able to capitalize on the points position here, still not being able to after this incident. Unfortunate. 3 into 1. Seemed like no one really knew where anyone was at right there. Kyle Ridley out of this race.
We'll hop on board with Kyle Ridley, or Jonathan Newberg here. Kyle Ridley here. Yeah, I think Jonathan just came across him there, and Kyle really couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah, it looked like he was too focused. There's 3 cars there in play. The red car down the inside looks like who he was mainly focused on, and didn't catch Kyle there on the outside. So unfortunate there, but we still have our leaders, Colin Weiss and Camden Hibbett.
Yeah, and they actually left the field. I mean, they're 3 seconds clear. Trenton Kramer, who's the next car, 3 seconds back. So these guys have just put on an amazing first 7 laps as they just gapped the entire field here today.
Yeah, it looks like Trenton Kramer, a little bit of a no man's land area right there, 3.1 seconds back from our leader. And then behind him, he's got 2.7 seconds. So he's going to be able to have a clean race if he can stay ahead of these 2 cars behind. It looks like that's Lewis, who's a little bit damaged. Brennan Horan, who was involved in a spin earlier in the race, capitalizing on some of those positions, getting past Greg there, moving him up into P6. Not as bad of a day as we thought after we saw him go off, maybe trying to capitalize on the points that were lost from Kyle and Jeremy there, thinking the long game about this championship.
Yeah, 100%. As we even see Jeremy Fairbairn back out of the pits and back going again, it's good to see these drivers decided that my race might not have gone the way I wanted it to, but at the end of the day, I can still get some points from this race, as we've talked about. I think Trenton Kramer, I'm not sure if he's out of fuel or damage or what the cause is here, but he pulls into pit lane. I think his day is done.
Kramer pulling into the pits out of the 3rd position, maybe a meatball flag or some damage as he gets out of the car. So that leaves one more position for our people that are going back out on track, like Jeremy Fairbairn, and people that are sticking into it. So good to see those guys that are sticking through with the race, picking up a couple more positions as we lose some drivers here. Looks like Kyle Ridley will not be returning to the race either.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's smart that Jeremy Fairbairn made it back out onto the track, as we see, we'll definitely gain some spots. I think Trenton Kramer's out of the race, Jonathan Newberg's out of the race, and Kyle Ridley's out of the race. So he might pick up a P7 finish despite being 3 laps down. So not the way he wanted his day to go, but still a good amount of points here on the table.
Yeah, this point system really rewards finishing the races and maximizing every race that you can, which is what we see Jeremy doing here, as that gap, now that we do no longer have Trenton Kramer with us, is now 7 seconds between the lead pack and the number 43 car of Lewis. So we'll see if looks like that pack separation is going to stay that way unless something pretty drastic happens. So now it's just between Colin and Camden up at the front, as we see here. Lewis and now Bullion coming down into the uphill bend. Still bumper to bumper. Looks like the number 43 car of Lewis has a little bit of damage there on the front end. Let's see if this can cause a little bit of action, as we still have 20 laps left in this race.
Yeah, I think from here on out for Colin Weiss and Camden Hibbett, just about finishing this race. As long as they don't cause any incidents or wreck between the two of them, they both have a solid points haul coming. I think Camden Hibbett at this point has led more laps than Colin Weiss. I'm not too sure on that, but I think going forward, if Colin Weiss just chooses to sit behind Camden will get the points for most laps led. But Colin Weiss is going to be happy with a P2 finish for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be a very good points haul for Camden, as it looks like with his 2 other top finishers in race 1 not having such a good race here. For him, a P3 and a P1 finish would put him with the most points leaving round 2, seeing where maybe that can boost him up in the championship standings.
Camden Hibbett wasn't here for round 1, so he's looking to make a good start to his championship. So I think he's doing well here. P1 currently, just Colin Weiss behind. Even if he lets Colin Weiss behind, still a P2 and a P3, a very, very solid showing.
Yeah, and like we talked about with our drop rounds, he can use that and continue to challenge for the championship. Cam Eben, who is not here for this round, will be missing out on these points as he sees the DNF with Jeremy and some other people that picked up some good points so far. Maybe he could have capitalized on that, but we got our guys here now, and Camden Hibbett still in the lead, half second to Colin, so maybe that gap's growing a little bit. 8.3 seconds now to the next pack behind them. But as we see, Brennan Horan, who had a spin earlier in the race, is now in the second pack, so he can potentially pick up a P3 finish here from still being off the racetrack up to a podium.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That just shows how how far dedication and hard work and perseverance can go in a race like this, where you never know what's going to happen. I mean, race one was predominantly clean with only one of our drivers getting in an incident that led them to go down pit lane. But race two, on the other hand, plenty of drivers having massive incidents. Jeremy Fairbairn flipping even, and then Kyle Ridley, Jonathan Newberg, and Tristan Kramer all out of this race.
Yeah, this one definitely a race of attrition as we're not even halfway yet, approaching halfway as we see Lewis down the inside and there's contact. He's off the racetrack in turn one, and as we talked about, Brennan Horan picking up 2 positions in one corner, taking advantage of the incident that happened ahead of him. As we see this replay down the inside, looks like number 43 car just ran a little bit wide, contact with the number 9, and then Brennan shoots down the inside of both of them and takes advantage of that incident. Let's see. Looks like he's not going to be able to gain any more positions unless something happens with the drivers ahead. But now he still has to hold off the number 9 car of Naboulian.
Yeah, 100%. And even Greg Ginsburg back in the draft now off Louis Alessi. So we'll see if those two can work together and get back to the P3 machine of Brendan Hearn and the P4 machine of Naboulian.
Yeah, Brennan breaking the draft down the front straight as we'll see the times update. He's 9.8 seconds off of the lead, but then we have behind him Lewis, who is 3 seconds behind, and then Greg within the draft, as we talked about, of Lewis. Greg, again, sitting back and taking advantage of the cards laid ahead of him up into that P6 position for Greg.
Yeah, he's having a great race, just maintaining his pace and just keeping it on track. So it's good to see him out here, and good to see him just putting down good laps, lap after lap after lap. It's paying off for him. A P6 finish is great, and despite the fact we haven't had that many drivers show up for this round's event compared to last round, that does mean there's a lot more points on the table. And even if you finish, P6 in today's race, that's really good. P6 points are still, the same whether there's 10 drivers or 30 drivers. So regardless of how many cars there are in today's race, Greg Ginsburg will take home a whole haul of points.
Yeah, this is going to make a big difference in Greg's championship. P6, definitely, I'm pretty sure his highest finish in the series so far. The number 9 car dipping some tires off on the exit of turn 1. Looks like these guys, the gap is still growing between them and the front pack of Colin and Camden. Camden still leading. Definitely at this point has led the most laps of the race. Colin being patient, he knows that's not the fight he needs. He needs to make up for the points that he lost in race 1.
Yeah, 100%, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to just sit behind Camden Hibbett and enjoy a P2 here. I mean, without his championship contender at this point, Cam Eben, he's not here. Kyle Ridley has not had a good race himself, so he will gain a lot of points off of him. And even John Bailiff, getting a lot of points. So Colin Weiss might leave round 2 as a championship leader.
Yeah, that'd be quite the feat for him. Looked like in practice and qualifying, he was not quite up to pace, but obviously he's learned something in that number 69 OnlyFans car as they come through the S's. He's definitely picked up some pace, now able to hang with one of our faster drivers, Camden Hibbett. As we look back here, the battle between Brennan Horan and Naboulian is still very close. Now only about half a second behind. Definitely within the draft of Brennan. Brennan laying down some good laps here. So right now, Niles in the position where he can't exactly make a move on Brennan. He still has about half the race left to do so. But, he's there waiting, putting pressure on Brennan, seeing if he can make a mistake and take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I mean, even as he gets closer to him, it comes down to when do you make the move? At a point where is it too early on lap 17, or is it, do I wait till later in the race, towards lap, late 20s? Do I make a move then? So at that point, he can't make a move back onto me. So it'll be interesting to see what Naboulian does here. He's done a lot of LMDH races and endurance races, so he's a strategic man, and I don't think he'll make any moves that will be dumb or, anything like that to ruin his race. So I'll be excited to see, whether he goes for a move early on towards the early 20s or later on towards the late 20s.
Yeah, this car, of course, very similar to what he's used to with the LMDH cars. Not exactly, but looks like he's getting used to it nonetheless. Still just that time by 7 tenths behind Brennan. Looks like that gap is growing a little bit, like we talked about. Maybe if the opportunity comes, since he doesn't have the pace, he may want to make that move now while he can. Because it looks like Brennan is starting to pull away from him a little bit. But if he can find that pace, I think he'll definitely want to make that move towards the end where he can, secure the safety of that position. But as they're weaving down the front straightaway, Gaps is very similar that time around. So maybe it was just a little bit of a mistake from Niall. Brennan going through turn two, very clean. Brennan's had a fairly clean race, no contact, besides that one off that he had early in the race. But like we talked about, all the way back up to a podium position so far. And up ahead, that gap between Colin and Camden still less than a tenth. Colin's still very happy to sit behind, not wanting these two behind him to catch up.
Yeah, 100%. And as we look farther back through the field, we see Louis Alessi and Greg Ginsburg. That gap is slowly coming down. I think lap by lap, Greg is chewing into it with the draft, and he might end up catching Louis Alessi. I'm not sure if he'll make a pass on him, but I think these two are going to have a good fight towards the end of the race.
Yeah, Greg definitely making that gap smaller. It's less than a second now as we go back to Brennan and Niall. Still, that gap closes about 2 tenths, so maybe Niall's picked up a little bit more of a pace. Maybe that pressure that he's putting on Brennan is starting to get to him. Like we talked about, we still have about 11 laps left in this race. Plenty of time. He has to wait out and see when he wants to make that move.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see for sure, because almost getting about 2 tenths on the last lap, but I think it comes down, this is a long race. 30 laps here can definitely take a toll on these front tires, especially the front left as a majority right corner track. So it'll be interesting to see here, whose tires falls off first. Will this have an effect in the play? Will Niall be able to capitalize on maybe Brennan's tires falling off, or will he make an early move and make a move before his own tires fall off?
Yeah, exactly. Some strategy here, too, in this second race, which is twice as long as the first sprint race. These cars front-wheel drive, as well as going to not help those front tires. So maybe we see a little bit of the games up front. Maybe Colin's letting Camden use his tires up, and Colin's preserving something for the end. Same thing with, seem to have 3 packs of 2 here. Maybe with Brennan and Niall. Maybe Niall has that pace, as we saw. He caught back up to Brennan a little bit. Maybe he's just keeping in reserve, waiting for Brennan's tires to go away.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Niall put in some exceptional laps to get back to Brennan, so at this point, maybe he's just taking it easy. Maybe he's saving some tires and seeing what he can do towards the end. Not only is it the tire wear that comes into effect here, but the tire temperature. Are you overheating the front left tire, or are you overworking it? Because at that point, it's just as good as a worn tire. So it's important to keep a good balance between tire heat and tire wear at this track.
Yeah, exactly. As we cross the line to start the 21st lap, only 9 laps left. Brennan and Niall still very close. That gap now 3 tenths. As we go back to our leaders, Colin dips a tire. That gap now half a second. So maybe if we were thinking Colin's saving those tires, maybe Camden saw that as an opportunity to break away a little bit. Looks like Colin's going to need to up the pace here on board with Colin Weiss. Camden Hibbett in that beautiful red PRG car up front. Dips a little bit of a tire, but looks like Camden definitely has the pace on Colin right now. We'll see how that plays out.
That 100%. I mean, look at the sector times. I mean, Colin Weiss was about 2.5 tenths slower just in the final 2 sectors that last lap. So I think Camden might have saved the tires a little bit better. I know we had some discussions about how do you drive this car early on in the race, and some of our drivers were saying, they were turning the car more to get some more rotation, and Camden here driving it more like a reserve style, of a spec Miata driving style almost, where you're putting minimal wheel inputs in and just trying to drive with your feet here. So I think that might have helped his tire wear a little bit.
Yeah, as we were talking about the tire wear, drivers driving differently. Camden, recently a Spec MX-5 scholarship recipient, racing in the 2024 Spec MX-5 Challenge Series with SCCA and Mazda Motorsports. Very exciting for him. So he's obviously taken a lot of the stuff that he does in real life with his driving style and brought it into here. Obviously, a little bit worried about from the pressure behind now as he lets Colin Wise pass. Is that a slowdown penalty that we see? Maybe from Camden Hibbett, giving the position back to Colin. That is definitely interesting.
Yeah, interesting move there. It sounded like Camden Hibbett almost let off. I'm not sure if he's playing the long game here, and he knows something we don't. Maybe he's gonna make a move back onto Colin Weiss, but we'll see how that goes, because definitely unexpected. Colin Weiss was a good 7/10 back starting that lap, so to end up leading that lap is definitely something I didn't expect at all.
Yeah, definitely must have been a penalty of some type as we look back to our second battle. Now Bouillon right behind Brennan Horn. This gap has closed, now under half a second, as it looks like now it's even under more, as Niall is very close to that rear bumper of Brennan as they round the last turn. Maybe the tire games back there are coming into chance, but Camden Hibbett very close to the rear bumper of Colin Weiss as they go through turn 1 and 2. Looks like he's still sitting back, waiting to see what move he wants to make. He's in the position of power now where, he has a little bit more pace. He's putting a lot of pressure on Colin, as we talked about that pressure maybe getting to him. Dips a tire off, exiting the S's there as they go into the uphill bend. Didn't lose too much from it, but obviously the pressure from Camden Hibbett getting to Colin a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like it, and Camden Hibbett, despite his age, tons of real-world experience compared to Colin Weiss, who his real-world experience pretty much mounts to driving on the street. So, I think definitely Camden hasn't beat out on the experience side, been on iRacing longer and racing in real life longer. So it'll be interesting to see here, what does Camden have up his sleeve that Colin Weiss doesn't know about?
Yeah, Camden, as we said, very experienced driver. Colin, very good on the sim. Both of them a decent amount of experience on the sim. But we'll see what Camden is planning here. He is tucked right up underneath that huge rear wing on these Jettas.
Tons of downforce being produced by that wing.
100%. Looks like he's just sitting in the draft, happy to be there, as we see the battle for P5 with Lewis and Greg Ginsberg. Greg in that beautiful Oreo car was a little closer at the beginning of the lap. Looks like he fell back. So we only have 5 laps left to go. Greg still maybe playing it a little safe, waiting to see what move he can make on Lewis here. That gap to start this lap was only 3/10. Looks like Lewis has grown that gap a little bit throughout the lap. Greg Ginsberg taking a whole lot of curb there in West Bend as they round the last turn. Only 4 laps left. Let's see how this sorts out.
Yeah, I think if you're these drivers, at this point you have to go. This is the last kind of laps where you can make a move and it would be unexpected. I think from here on out, our lead drivers are going to start covering the inside lines. They're going to defending, and once that occurs, it's going to be hard to make a move.
Yeah, Colin Weiss again feeling the pressure from Camden Hibbett, dropping a tire off there. Camden looks to get a little closer to the apex, like we talked about, tucked up right onto that bumper of Colin Weiss. So they're falling nose to tail, as they have for almost all of the 30 laps here, with their quite impressive, actually, 11.2 second lead to the rest of the field. Colin going defensive onto the Sam Posey straight. Camden wanting to get that draft. He goes left, round the outside. Maybe he's thinking for the switchback as he gets down to the inside in turn 1 of Colin Weiss. Let's see if he can hold that through. Maybe Colin can hold the outside. Colin's been on the other side of this move a lot, as he's still on the left-hand side for turn 2. But this is where it really bottlenecks up. You got to go single file, but Colin rounds the outside. Camden's not able to get the move finished off. They're still side by side. Looks like Colin has about a whole car length almost clear as they go into the uphill bend. Colin has to take the wide line. Camden with an amazing exit as they head down to West Bend, but Camden has to succeed. Colin around the outside. What an impressive move.
Yeah, what a move. For Colin to hold that off from Camden Hibbett, just an amazing job. But I think Camden's going to have the run back onto here on the straight. We'll see what he goes for. Will he go for the same exact move as last time around the outside, or will he try to play a trick on him and go down the inside late? He moves to the outside. Colin Weiss holding strong to the inside here. Takes a good amount of curb, slides out in front of Camden Hibbett. I don't think Camden Hibbett's going to be able to make a move this time by.
No, looked like Camden was trying to set up for that same move that he pulled a lap earlier. Colin thinking ahead of that, blocking that move. Camden being just a little bit offline here, trying to see what he can set up, seeing what type of runs he can get. Both a decent exit out of the S's as they go up the uphill bend. Camden still right on the bumper as we have just about 2.5 laps left here. Very short laps here. Camden's going to have to find something to do, get a run somewhere. Like we talked about, one real big braking zone here is Collins off on the exit of West Bend. Camden Hibbett down the inside. They're side by side again. We've seen things go drastically wrong here. Still side by side on the Sam Posey straight. Looks like Camden Hibbett has a little bit of run. Half car ahead. Tire to tire as they go into the braking zone of turn 1. Camden, a little bit of contact, pushes Colin a little bit wide. Looks like Colin's not going to be able to get to the inside. Camden covers the inside off for the crossover move. Colin trying to hold that momentum around the outside, drops a tire. Camden Hibbett back into the lead with only a lap and a half left.
Yeah, these guys are definitely friends, but they are not teammates. So at this point in the race, it's every man for themselves, and it's definitely proving here. I mean, Camden Hibbett giving Colin Weiss a hip check into turn 1 there. I'm sure Colin Weiss isn't going to be too happy about that move, but we'll see how he retaliates and see if he can get back to Camden Hibbett. Because, there's only a lap left. I don't even know if there's time for Colin Weiss to get back to Camden Hibbett. No, let's make a move on him. So I think at this point in the race, Camden Hibbett has to love where he is.
Yeah, I think you'd have to be right on the bumper here looking to shape up moving to turn 1, but Camden's pulled quite the gap there. Once it comes down to these last 2 laps, I don't think it really matters if your teammates or not. You're going to be fighting out for the race win here. Camden Hibbett crosses the line with half a second lead to Colin Weiss. It's going to be quite the move if Colin's going to have to want to try anything on this last lap. Camden Hibbett pulled out his pace that he had there right at the end. Colin Weiss still not able to get any closer as we go into these last couple laps through the S's.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be able to. I think it's just going to, how the race is going to finish, because there's not enough time. To make up 5/10 in the matter of, 3 corners left, I don't think it's possible, but never say never, you know what I'm saying? Oh, is that an incident for Colin Weiss? I think he hit the wall there.
Colin Weiss a little bit wide on the uphill bend.
See.
Yeah, a little damage to the left side of that car. Hopefully not a meatball flag. That'd be pretty unfortunate on the last lap of the race to pick something off like that. You see the pressure.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Straight into the wall.
Straight into the wall, a little wide. Pressure getting to him a little bit. Trying to catch back up that last little bit. Like we said, hopefully that's not... Oh, and Colin Weiss deep into the tire barrier as he picks up P2. Camden Hibbett, winner of Race 2, Round 2 of the PRG Pro Sim Challenge. Impressive drive from him starting in 8th. Like we talked about, that mega start. Then in P3, we have Brennan Horan able to still get that podium finish after having an early off. P4, we have Niall Bullion. P5, we have Louis Alesi. P6, Greg Ginsberg. P7, Jeremy Fairbairn. As we talked about, Jeremy still sticking out the race, wanting to finish as he celebrates his perseverance crossing the line. And then our DNFers, we have Trenton Kramer in P8, Jonathan Newberg in P9, and Kyle Ridley in P10 after that P2 finish in race 1.
Yeah, amazing race by all of our drivers there. I think some drivers are going to be upset with their results. As we see, Kyle Ridley, Jonathan Newberg, Trenton Kramer, Jeremy Fairbairn all finishing multiple laps down. But at the end of the day, I think it just shows it's important to keep, a clean race and a clean head. And I think, some of our drivers led the day and some of our drivers didn't. And at the end of the day, I think it shows. And what we saw today was clean racing from some drivers and not so clean from others. And I think, the guys that were driving clean, end up paying off for them, and they did well.
Yeah, like we talked about going into this with not a whole lot of passing zones and a lot of side-by-side action. It was going to be that patience. And I think we saw, our drivers that were patient and showed a lot of maturity, like Camden Hibbett and Colin, pay off, and some others that didn't with some of the battles we had throughout the race. But that'll be it for round 2 of the Parallel Racing Group Pro Sim Challenge. We want to thank all of our drivers for coming out for another wonderful race. We hope all of you have happy holidays. Christmas is right around the corner. New Year's in just a couple days. I think that's it from us.
I think before we go, we do have some drivers waiting for an interview, so we will bring in
Oh.
P2 Colin Weiss first of all. So we'll bring him in here and see what he has to say. So Colin, a P2 finish for you in race 2, and I think you are now the points leader of our championship. Walk me through how that race was.
Yeah, we had a really good start. Got a good jump on everyone in front of me, and then ended up with some incidents going on behind us, and just a good sequence of events that led to me being in front. And Camden is a good friend, so we just worked together to get ahead of the field, and then raced at the end. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite get him, but I'll take a P2 for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Amazing racecraft from you, and just amazing strategy, and just a great round all in all for you. I think you might have had the most points other than Camden Hibbett from this round. Is there anyone I'd like to thank?
Just the PRG guys for putting on the event, and yeah, I mean my mom and dad for birthing me. You feel, yeah. Other than that, nobody else.
100%. Great talking to you, and amazing race.
Well, thank you, Colin.
Thanks, boys.
It was wonderful watching you guys out there. Thank you for coming in for the interview. Looks like next up we have our winner of the second race, Camden Hibbett. Camden, walk us through that race. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a fun one for sure. Me and Colin were working together there. We had a really good start. I think we were P2, P3 before turn 1, which was not a terrible situation to be in. But no, a really good race. Colin kind of let me go because I had a little bit more pace through the midsection of the race, so he let me go to try and build up the gap, and then let him back by, and we raced for the final couple laps and ended up coming away with the win.
Yeah, it looks like you were able to pull away a little bit there on that last lap once you finished off that move. Now, how are you going to approach the rest of this championship? Of course, you've already used your drop round for the first race, Road Atlanta, but you've picked up a lot of points here. So you're on a good start, and once drops are accounted, I think you'll be up in the championship lead. What are your thoughts going into the rest of the rounds? Are you thinking you have to be a little more cautious because you don't want to lose any more points without having your extra drops? Or are you thinking that you got to get in there and get the most points that you can?
Yeah, just being really smart about it and going about it in a cautiously aggressive way, I guess. Because you gotta, obviously I can't really afford any like wrecks or DNFs, but these guys, everybody's so close, so you gotta always be up front almost every single race if you want a shot at the win, especially with the position I'm in after using the drop in race 1 or round 1. So definitely can't really let up on the aggression, but you're right. I mean, a DNF would make a run at the championship just that much harder.
Exactly. Well, thank you for coming out. It's a pleasure watching you today, Camden. And then last person that we have waiting for an interview, we have Mr. Jeremy Fairbairn, who won the first race, and then that incident in the second race. Jeremy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. It was looking really good after that start. Me and Camden were pushing through the field pretty nicely. I had to start last, obviously, because of the reverse grid, but managed to get up to P5, and then just an incident with Kyle Ridley ended up putting me on my roof, unfortunately. But managed to finish the rest of the race and come home P7 after that.
Yeah, I really think for you, getting back out on track and finishing that race is a difference in 3 positions for you, and that really matters with our point system. So it's good that you persevered and were able to finish that race. Do you think some of that contact and maybe it was the red mist coming from the first race when you guys got together?
It definitely could have been. Yeah, I saw a difference in Kyle's driving after the contact made in turn 1, with just the passes he was making on Camden, and he was really trying to get to me in those last few laps. But just glad I could hold him off in race 1 and come home with the win.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming out. Excellent racing. Glad to have all of you as always. Giancarlo, if you want to round us off.
Yeah, thank you all for watching. It was an amazing round 2, and we hope to see you guys round 3 in a couple of weeks at Martinsville Speedway.